It's how all cities function, and it's how they've always functioned since, like, the Egyptians. City managers and city managers literally started out, about 5,000 years ago, and they've developed an art. And planning is like the major way you get anything done. It's the way that you can organize and structure both your goals. You first define your goals, and then organize and structure your work so that you can attain those goals. And basically, you start out with a problem statement. What's your problem? What is it that you want to deal with? What is it that is is it the road that's screwed up? Is it housing that's a problem? Whatever your problem is, you define the problem. And then the question becomes, what are your resources? What do you have at hand? What can you bring in order to deal with the problem most efficiently? Because that's the other thing, and this is really important for socialists, is that we really are talking about providing the best for the most in the best way, okay? And if you break everything down that simply, then when you come to, okay, so this is our problem, all right? That's your problem statement. We identified the problem and we substantiated it, because you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to document what it is you're talking about, and it can't just be, well, so-and-so told me, or this person looked like it, or I experienced this anecdotal situation. You have to have your facts, your figures, everything lined up, okay, to make your argument. Because that's what you're doing. You're going to sell an argument. Okay. So then you go and you determine what your goals are going to be. What is it that we want to accomplish? And you want them to be number goals so that you can always have a way of evaluating what you're doing. So, okay, you say, I want to accomplish these goals. So how do I do that? Well, you want to accomplish X, you want to accomplish people to stop speeding along the streets. So what is one way that you would do that? You put up a stop sign. You put in, those bumps along the way, whatever. What's your goals and how do you measure whether you achieved them or not? And then what are the objectives? You break down your goals into objectives and with a timeline. In other words, what are we going to accomplish, how much, and over what amount of time?
Excuse me, you were saying a little while ago you had to leave in 20 minutes?
Yep.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
This quickly.
I just wanted to get time to hear from Chris.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So, because I want to start, I want you all to understand this process, because A, you can do it yourselves, and B, you're going to understand how it is that the planning does take place in your local area, or in the state, or even in the feds, okay? So, that's how you start a plan, that's how you become a planner, that's how you get things moving. Okay, so now you come into the place where you know what you want to accomplish, you know what your resources are, you know what resources you still have to find, and then you go to work. Now, this particular place is not just a great place for us to meet and have a good time. It is the example, I think, one of the greatest examples of how local people decided that they wanted to accomplish something They set their goals, they set their objectives, and they went about achieving it. And not only has this brought us this wonderful bar and great meeting place, but it's brought us this community center. It's a place where people network. It's had tremendous influence on all the area around it, and it's going to continue to do so. Plus, it offers a model for other people to emulate and to replicate. I mean, that's the best thing of all, is when you've got when something brings about a model for further development and accomplishment. So,
Yep. Well, I
there
think
you are.
it's, city planning is, well, let's take a step back. For a long time, I was involved in zoning, and I helped rewrite our zoning code, which was adopted in 2017. But you know, the fundamental level, it's city planning is, as you mentioned, about community, and communities getting together to kind of figure out how they're going to live together. And and there are better and worse ways of doing that. But I think my role in Broadway Fillmore is an example of me kind of doing what I want to see happen as a city planner, not just doing studies in a back room of City Hall, but actually getting out there, rolling up our sleeves, and doing everything we can from a direct action perspective. So one of the things the zoning code will enable, we're reopening shops even in residential zones, and by at least first allowing the kind of legacy historic shop fronts to be reactivated without having to get use rights. And there are hundreds of those throughout
Sure.
Buffalo, not just on neighborhood main streets like Broadway or Fillmore, but even tucked away on places like Peckham Street, which historically were mostly just houses. So this was a bar kind of tucked away amidst other cottages, and people walked to the local tap. So that was a tradition I wanted to tap into. The first task, I think, was getting the bar reopened. And because we're an all-volunteer nonprofit, and we've sort of do a lot better, actually, we have money to spend, and we have resources that we can employ to kind of assist in making the neighborhood better. So the bar is more or less fully restored. There are certainly projects we want to do, but we turned our attention from the bar to the outdoor neighborhood. You were part of our grand opening in 2020, and we had our 4th anniversary yesterday. And so we've come a long way. And when I first arrived here, and I had about 2 minutes before my Uber arrives. When I first arrived here, one of my first tasks was to figure out where are the block clubs, who's kind of doing things. And it turns out there was no organized residential presence whatsoever. So we helped reestablish a block club, which is now called the Assumption Terminal Neighborhood Association. It incorporates the 9 blocks south of Patterson Drive between Fillmore and Memorial. And our very first meeting in 2022 was a planning workshop. So we put together the Broadway Fillmore 2032 plan, which is basically our list of detailed goals and objectives of where we wanted to be in 10 years, 2032. And for the things that we can do, we can't fix all the sidewalks. We can't by ourselves reopen a neighborhood library branch, but there are things we can do directly. And the thing we focus on most, well, number one, of course, community cleanups. So we've taken a neighborhood where there was, really garbage everywhere, and made it pretty tidy. And secondly, to start planting trees. And so far we've planted 118.
Wow.
Our new goal is 250.
Wow.
So every tree you see with a gator bag and stakes, those are trees paid for with beer money and direct donations from our members. And installed and watered by me and several neighbors. So we're going to keep going until this is a beautifully forested and healthier community. And but that's an example of city planning at work. It's not always a government function. It can simply be neighbors getting together, setting goals, and going about to achieve them. Both there is a function both at the kind of high level, from federal government on down, and it's something that neighborhood residents can do together. So that's what I'm doing. You know how to find that video.
Yeah.
And I think John, the happy urbanist from Chattanooga, Tennessee, did a profile on Deb's Hall after he spoke here, and did a better job than I could in telling our story. So it's always interesting to hear other people tell it, because I tend to focus on the history. It's like, oh yeah, it was built in 1914 by John Kucharski and the Stratford Brewing Company and blah 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 blah. That's how I tell my story. I want to look at the history. I'm a historic preservation planner. I tend to focus on stories that way. But he talks about the hall as a vehicle for community achievement
Right.
goals.
Community development, yeah.
So for neighborhood advancement.
Yeah?
You know how to find that video. I think
Yes,
it's
I'm
on
gonna
our
show all my
page,
comments
but-
later.
But make sure everyone sees it, and I'll be back
Yes.
a little after 5.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll see you later. Thank you
Sounds
very
good.
much.